Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. I will be reading to you from Carry On Jeeves, a collection of short stories written by P.G. Wodehouse in 1925. They are about Jeeves, a valet, and his employer Bertie Wooster, told from the point of view of Bertie. These characters are in dozens of short stories by Wodehouse. I do readings twice a week. If you subscribe to my Substack newsletter, you'll get notified of my updates as soon as they're ready. If you enjoy this reading or have other classics you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. Last episode, Bertie helped a friend avoid marriage and find a new career. This episode, he is entrusted with the care of the son of one of Aunt Agatha's friends. It seems simple at first. Chapter 3. Jeeves and the Unbidden Guest. I'm not absolutely certain of my facts, but I rather fancy it's Shakespeare, or if not, it's some equally brainy bird, who says that it's always just when a fellow is feeling particularly braced with things in general that fate sneaks up behind him with a bit of lead piping. And what I'm driving at is that the man is perfectly right. Take, for instance, the business of Lady Malvern and her son Wilmot. That was one of the scaliest affairs I've ever mixed up with, and a moment before they came into my life, I was just thinking how thoroughly all right everything was. I was still in New York when the thing started, and it was about the time of year when New York is at its best. It was one of those topping mornings that I just climbed out from under the cold shower and feeling like $1 million. As a matter of fact, what was bucking me up more than anything was the fact that the day before I had asserted myself with Jeeves. Absolutely asserted myself, don't you know? You see, the way things have been going on, I was rapidly becoming a dashed serf. The man had jolly well oppressed me. I didn't so much mind when he made me give up one of my new suits, because Jeeves's judgment about suits is sound and generally can't be relied upon. But I as near as a toucher rebelled when he wouldn't let me wear a pair of cloth-top boots, which I loved like a couple of brothers. And finally, when he tried to tread on me like a worm in the matter of a hat, I put the Wooster foot down and showed him in no uncertain manner who was who. It's a long story, and I haven't time to tell you now, but the nub of the thing was that he wanted me to wear the White House Wonder, as worn by President Coolidge, when I had my heart set on the Broadway special, much patronized by the younger set, and the end of the matter was that, after a rather painful scene, I bought the Broadway special. So that's how things were on this particular morning, and I was feeling pretty manly and independent. I was in the bathroom, wondering what there was going to be for breakfast while I massaged the spine with a rough towel and sang slightly when there was a tap at the door. I stopped singing and opened the door an inch. "What ho, without there?" I said. "Lady Malvern has called, sir," said Jeeves. "Eh?" "Lady Malvern, sir. She is waiting in the sitting room." "Pull yourself together, Jeeves, my man," I said rather severely, for I bar practical jokes before breakfast. "You know perfectly well there's no one waiting for me in the sitting room. How could there be when it's barely 10 o'clock yet?" "I gathered from her ladyship, sir, that she had landed from an ocean liner at an early hour this morning." This made the thing a bit more plausible. I remembered that when I had arrived in America about a year before, the proceedings had begun at some ghastly hour like 6, and I had been shot out onto a foreign shore considerably before 8. "Who the deuce is Lady Malvern, Jeeves?" "Her ladyship did not confide to me, sir." "Is she alone?" "Her ladyship is accompanied by a Lord Pershore, sir. I fancy that the lordship would be her ladyship's son." "Oh, well, put out rich raiment of sorts, and I'll be dressing." "Our heather mixture lounge is in readiness, sir." "Oh, then lead me to it." While I was dressing, I kept trying to think who on earth Lady Malvern might be. It wasn't until I had climbed through the top of my shirt and was reaching out for the studs that I remembered. "I've placed her, Jeeves. She's a pal of my Aunt Agatha." "Indeed, sir." "Yes, I met her at lunch one Sunday before I left London. A very vicious specimen. Writes books. She wrote a book on social conditions in India when she came back from the Durbar." Yes, sir. Pardon me, sir, but not that tie. Eh? Not that tie with the heather mixture lounge, sir. It's a shock to me. I thought I'd quelled the fellow. It was rather a solemn moment. What I mean is, if I weakened now, all my good work the night before would be thrown away. I braced myself. Well, what's wrong with this tie? I've seen you give it a nasty look before. Speak out like a man. What's the matter with it? Too ornate, sir. Nonsense. A cheerful pink, nothing more. Unsuitable, sir. Jeeves, this is the tie I wear. Very good, sir. Dash it, pleasant. I could see that the man was wounded, but I was firm. I tied the tie, got into the coat and waistcoat, and went into the sitting room. Hello, I said. What? Ah, how do you do, Mr. Wooster? She said. You have never met my son, Wilmot, I think. Motty, darling, this is Mr. Wooster. Lady Malvern was a healthy, and overpowering sort of dashed female, not so very tall, but making up for it by measuring about 6 feet from stage left to stage right. She fitted in on my biggest armchair as if it had been built around her by someone who knew they were wearing armchairs tight about the hips that season. She had bright, bulging eyes and a lot of yellow hair, and when she spoke, she showed about 57 front teeth. She was one of those women who kind of numb a fellow's faculties. She made me feel as if I were 10 years old and had been brought into the drawing room on my Sunday clothes to say, how'd you do? Altogether by no means the sort of thing a chappie would wish to find in his sitting room before breakfast. Motty, the son, was about 23, tall and thin and meek-looking. He had the same yellow hair as his mother, but he wore it plastered down and parted in the middle. His eyes bulged, too, but they weren't bright. They were dull gray with pink rims. His chin gave up the struggle about halfway down, and he didn't appear to have any eyelashes. A mild, furtive, sheepish sort of blighter and short. Awfully glad to see you, I said, though this was far from the case, or already I was beginning to have a sort of feeling that dirty work was threatening in the offing. So you've popped over, eh? Making a long stay in America? About a month, she said. Your aunt gave me your address and told me to be sure to call on you. I was glad to hear this, for it seemed to indicate that Aunt Agatha was beginning to come around a bit. As I believe I told you before, there had been some slight unpleasantness between us arising from the occasion when she sent me over to New York to disentangle my cousin Gussie from the clutches of a girl on the music hall stage. When I tell you that by the time I finished my operations, Gussie had not only married the girl but had gone on the music halls himself and was doing well, you'll understand the relations were a trifle strained between aunt and nephew. I simply hadn't dared to go back and face her, and it was a relief to find that time had healed the wound enough to make her tell her pals to call on me. What I mean is, much as I liked America, I didn't want to have England barred to me for the rest of my natural. And believe me, England is a jolly sight too small for anyone to live in with Aunt Agatha if she's really on the warpath. So I was braced down hearing these words and smiled genially on the assemblage. Your aunt said that you would do anything that was in your power to be of assistance to us. Oh, rather, absolutely. Thank you so much. I want you to put dear Motty up for a little while. I didn't get this for a moment. Darling Motty is essentially a home bird, aren't you, Motty, darling? Motty, who was sucking the knob of his stick, uncorked himself. Yes, mother, he said, and corked himself up again. I should not like him to belong to club, she said. I mean, put him up here. Have him live with you while I'm away. These frightful words trickled out of her like honey. The woman simply didn't understand the ghastly nature of her proposal. I gave Motty the swift east to west. He was sitting with his mouth nuzzling the stick, blinking at the wall. The thought of having this planted on me for an indefinite period appalled me. Absolutely appalled me, don't you know? I was just starting to say that the shot wasn't on the board at any price, and that the first thing Motty gave of trying to nestle into my little home I would yell for the police, when she went on, rolling placidly over me, as it were. There was something about this woman that sapped one's willpower. "I'm leaving New York by the midday train," she said, "as I have to pay a visit to Sing Sing prison. I'm extremely interested in prison conditions in America. After that, I work my way gradually across to the coast, visiting the points of interest on the journey. You see, Mr. Wooster, I am in America principally on business. No doubt you read my book, India and the Indians. My publishers are anxious for me to write a companion volume on the United States. I shall not be able to spend more than a month in the country, as I have to get back for the season, but a month should be ample. I was less than a month in India, and my dear friend Sir Roger Creemore wrote his America from Within after a stay of only 2 weeks. I should love to take dear Motty with me, but the poor boy gets so sick when he travels by train. I shall have to pick him up on my return." From where I sat, I could see Jeeves in the dining room laying the breakfast table. I wished I could have had a minute with him alone. I felt certain that he would have been able to think of some way of putting a stop to this woman. "It will be such a relief to know that Motty is safe with you, Mr. Wooster. I know what the temptations of a great city are. Hitherto dear Motty has been sheltered from them. He has lived quietly with me in the country. I know that you will look after him carefully, Mr. Wooster. He will give very little trouble." She talked about the poor blighter as if he wasn't there. Not that Motty seemed to mind. He'd stopped chewing on his walking stick and was sitting there with his mouth open. "He's a vegetarian and a teetotaler and is devoted to reading. Give him a nice book and he'll be quite contented." She got up. "Thank you so much, Mr. Wooster. I don't know what I should have done without your help. Come, Motty. We have just time to see a few of the sights before my train goes. But I shall have to rely on you for most of my information about New York, darling. Be sure to keep your eyes open and take notes of your impressions. It will be such a help. Goodbye, Mr. Wooster. I will send Motty back early in the afternoon." They went out, and I howled for Jeeves. "Jeeves!" "Sir?" "What's to be done? You heard it all, didn't you? You're in the dining room most of the time. That pill is coming to stay here." "Bill, sir?" "The excrescence." "I beg your pardon, sir." I looked at Jeeves sharply. Oh, this sort of thing wasn't like him. Then I understood. The man was really upset about that tie. He was trying to get his own back. "Lord Pershore will be staying here from tonight, Jeeves," I said coldly. "Very good, sir. Breakfast is ready, sir." I could have sobbed into the bacon and eggs. That there wasn't any sympathy to be got out of Jeeves was what put the lid on it. For a moment I almost weakened and told him to destroy the hat and tie if he didn't like them, but I pulled myself together again. I was dashed if I was going to let Jeeves treat me like a bally one-man chain gang. But what with brooding on Jeeves and brooding on Motty, I was in a pretty reduced sort of state. The more I examined the situation, the more blighted it became. There was nothing I could do. If I slung Motty out, he would report to his mother, and she would pass it on to Aunt Agatha, and I didn't like to think what would happen then. Sooner or later, I should be wanting to get back to England, and I didn't want to get there and find Aunt Agatha waiting on the quay for me with a stuffed eelskin sap. There was absolutely nothing for it to put the fellow up and make the best of it. About midday, Motty's luggage arrived, and soon afterwards a large parcel of what I took to be nice books. I brightened up a little when I saw it. It was one of those massive parcels, and it looked as if it had enough in it to keep him busy for a year. I felt a bit more cheerful, and I got my Broadway special and stuck it on my head and gave the pink tie a twist and reeled out to take a bite of lunch with one or two of the lads at a neighborhood hostelry. And what with excellent browsing and sluicing and cheery conversation and what not, the afternoon passed quite happily. By dinner time, I had almost forgotten Motty's existence. I dined at the club and looked in at a show afterwards, and it wasn't until fairly late that I got back to the flat. There were no signs of Motty, and I took it that he'd gone to bed. It seemed rummy to me, though, that the parcel of nice books was still there with string and paper on it. It looked as if Motty, after seeing the mother off at the station, just decided to call it a day. Jeeves came in with the nightly whiskey and soda. I could tell from the chappie's manner that he was still upset. "Lord Pershore has gone to bed, Jeeves?" I said, with reserved hauteur and what not. "No, sir, his lordship has not yet returned." "Not returned? What do you mean?" "His lordship came in shortly after 6:30, and, having dressed, went out again." At this moment there was a noise outside the front door, a sort of scrabbling noise, as if somebody were trying to paw his way through the woodwork, then a sort of thud. "Better go and see what that is, Jeeves." "Very good, sir." He went out and came back again. "If you would not mind stepping this way, sir, I think we might be able to carry him in." "Carry him in?" "His lordship is lying on the mat, sir." I went to the front door. The man was right. There was Motty huddled up outside on the floor. He was moaning a bit. "Well, he's had some sort of dashed fit," I said. I took another look. "Jeeves, someone's been feeding him meat." "Sir?" "He's a vegetarian, you know. Well, he must have been digging into a steak or something. I'll call up a doctor." "I hardly think it will be necessary, sir. If you would take his lordship's legs while I—" "Oh, great Scott, Jeeves! You don't think he can't be—" "I am inclined to think so, sir." And by Jove, he was right. Once on the right track, you couldn't mistake it. Motty was under the surface, completely sozzled. It was a deuce of a shock. You never can tell, Jeeves. "Very seldom, sir." "Remove the eye of authority, and where are you?" "Precisely, sir." "Where's my wandering boy tonight, and all that sort of thing, what?" "It would seem so, sir." "Well, we'd better bring him in, eh?" "Yes, sir." So we lugged him in, and Jeeves put him to bed, and I lit a cigarette and sat down to think the thing over. I had a kind of foreboding. It seemed to me that I'd let myself in for something pretty rocky. Next morning, after I'd sucked down a thoughtful cup of tea, I went into Motty's room to investigate. I expected to find the fellow a wreck, but there he was, sitting up in bed, quite chirpy, reading gingery stories. "What ho?" I said. "What ho?" said Motty. "What ho, what ho? What ho, what ho, what ho?" After that, it seemed rather difficult to go on with the conversation. "How are you feeling this morning?" I asked. "Topping," replied Motty blithely and with abandon. "I say, you know that fellow of yours, Jeeves, is a corker. I had a most frightful headache when I woke up, and he brought me a sort of rummy dark drink, and it put me right at once. Said it was his own invention. I must see more of that lad. He seems to me distinctly one of the ones." I couldn't believe that this was the same blighter who'd sat and sucked his stick the day before. "Oh, you ate something that disagreed with you last night, didn't you?" I said, by way of giving him a chance to slide out of it if he wanted to. But he wouldn't have it at any price. "No," he replied firmly, "I didn't do anything of the kind. I drank too much. Much too much. Lots and lots too much. And what's more, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it every night. If you ever see me sober, old top," he said with a kind of holy exaltation, "tap me on the shoulder and say, 'Tut-tut,' and I'll apologize and remedy the defect." "But I say, what about me?" "What about you?" "Well, I'm, so to speak, as it were, kind of responsible for you. What I mean to say is, if you go doing this sort of thing, I'm apt to get in the soup somewhat." "I can't help your troubles," said Motty firmly. "Listen to me, old thing. This is the first time in my life that I've had a real chance to yield to the temptation of a great city. What's the use of a great city having temptations if fellows don't yield to them? It makes it so bally discouraging for the great city. Besides, Mother told me to keep my eyes open and collect impressions." I sat on the edge of the bed. I felt dizzy. "I know just how you feel, old dear," said Motty consolingly, "and if my principles would permit it, I would simmer down for your sake. But duty first. This is the first time I've been out alone, and I mean to make the most of it. We're only young once. Why interfere with life's morning? Young man, rejoice in thy youth, tra-la, what ho!" But like that, it did seem reasonable. "All my bally life, dear boy," Motty went on, "I've been cooped up in the ancestral home at Much Middleford in Shropshire, Until you've been cooped up in much Middleford, you don't know what cooping is. The only time we get any excitement is when one of the choir boys is caught sucking a chocolate during the sermon. When that happens, we talk about it for days. I've got about a month in New York, and I mean to store up a few happy memories for the long winter evenings. This is my only chance to collect the past, and I'm going to do it. Now tell me, old sport, as man to man, how does one get in touch with that very decent bird Jeeves? Does one ring a bell or shout a bit? I should like to discuss the subject of a good stiff B&S with him. End of episode. That's a mess. Hopefully there's a way to rein Motty in before his aunt finds out anything. We'll find out in the next episode. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get notified of my updates as soon as they're ready. If you enjoy this reading or have other classics you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. Check out my other posts on my Substack at ravensview.substack.com, and remember to share this with your friends. Ta-ta for now.